Well, it's that time of year again. Time to gather all of the things you need to make the wonderful tamales that we enjoy, especially over the holidays, and especially the Tex Mex style. Stay tuned for the recipe at the end, plus some San Antonio humor. The Nahuatl language of the Aztec Empire has many words for food, and we use many of these words to this day. Tamal, or tamale, means wrapped. In this case, a food that is wrapped, which we call the tamale. There are hundreds of different styles and recipes for tamales, extending down to southern Mexico, the Yucatan, the Caribbean. But they all have one thing in common. It is a tremendously sustainable food. Everything is there, right on the family farm or nearby. The corn for the masa, the husk as a container, peppers, and the occasional farm animal. It is from this heritage that we gather our ingredients to make Tex Mex tamales. So let's begin preparing our tamales. We'll use a 3-pot recipe. 1, 2, 3. So in the first, we have our corn husks. We'll just put them in water and let them soak for final assembly. Next, masa. I'll use 1 bag of masa in this pot after a liquid is prepared, and that will be from ancho chiles, maybe some other spices, and lard. So lard is from pork, tallow is from beef. We'll be using lard, about 2 pounds of this, because you need that in your masa. And then the meat, the filling. In this case, we'll use pork. I apologize, San Antonio, but there are no hog's heads in the stores up here. About 5 pounds will go in here with spices and some other things. So let's start with the easiest part, the husks. We'll use warm water, and as these soften over the next hour or so, we'll put them down further underwater. Ancho chiles are not hot. They have a wonderful, rich, almost sweet chili flavor, and that really is a key part of this recipe. First, we'll have to cut these open and take the seeds out. Well, that's a lot of seeds. We'll take the anchos now and start them simmering in about 2 quarts of water. And those will stay on until about an hour before the filling is done. So I have trimmed off most of the meat. This now goes into the same pot with the ancho peppers. In the end, this will be the broth which goes into the masa. Here are our 3 pots cooking for this recipe. The husks are soaking, the liquid for the masa, and the meat filling. The meat will slow cook for a long time until it falls apart. For this recipe, it'll be about 5 hours, 4 hours. We'll have to see how that goes. Next, I will cover spices. The spices for the meat: diced onion, diced jalapeno, fresh garlic, cumin seed or comino, salt, and dark chili powder. So we'll put those in. and let that slow cook for a while. Keep in mind, we'll always adjust. Taste it in an hour or so and see, does it need more salt? Does it need more chili? What does it need? So we'll do that final adjustment. We'll also do final adjustments on the water that'll go into the masa. For the masa water, it is smelling wonderful. It's a combination of this rich, chocolatey chili plus some of the pork. To this, at this time, I'm only going to add some salt and some badia sazon. And that seems to come out just right. But again, in the end, we will adjust for salt. And of course, when the liquids here go into the masa, we'll taste to see if it needs more salt. The meat has slow cooked and is now very tender. It has about an hour to go. The liquid for the masa is done and should be taken off the heat and allowed to cool. You cannot add this hot liquid to the masa, otherwise it'll cook in the bowl. Right now, we'll take out the lard and let that cool off. Next, strain this into a colander where I've already put the lard. Then we'll blend that all together. Save the anchos that you've strained out for use in a red sauce, or we might add some of that back to the meat. About this time, we can turn off the meat and let it start to cool down for final assembly. Also, it's time to blend. So this will go into the masa. Take our fluid. I'm only putting in about a half, and then the masa a little bit at a time. So about half the masa first. So we get a very wet mixture. Mix that up. And what we want is a texture that's a little thicker than peanut butter. So this needs more liquid. So we'll add some liquid and adjust it. So we have the right consistency, about like thick peanut butter. Let's taste for salt. And it does need a little bit more salt. The husks are ready. The masa is ready. The meat filling is ready. And one of the steamers is ready. So at this point, the family would come together and form an assembly line where you would take a husk, put masa on it, fill it, wrap it, and put it in the steamer. So that's very, very labor intensive. A traditional way to make tamales is to spoon some of the masa onto the husk, spread it out while holding it. This takes a lot of skill, a lot of effort, a lot of luck, and it's a slow technique. And then you take some of the filling, stuff the middle, roll it up, bend along the seam, and now you can stack that and steam it. I do have a tool which helps to spread the masa on the husks. It was invented by a Texan, and I will show you an image of the commercial product. But this really helps things move along quickly, and I'll show you. There's no one better to show you than Sandra Vasquez, the inventor of this tool. She can spread about a dozen tamales in under a minute. Here is our mild batch. We'll put these in the steamer, steam them for 2 hours. Then we'll come back and add more spice to everything, the masa and the meat filling, and we'll make another batch. and we'll just keep going until we run out of supplies. We've made half of our tamales mild, and so now we're going to go with the last half spicy. After 2 hours of steaming, we're done. 2 dozen here, another 2 dozen here, and another 2 dozen. So a total of 6 dozen from everything we used. We had about 3.5 pounds of masa, dry masa used, and all the meat. This preparation is from a recipe my grandmother taught me many years ago. I hope that you will find it useful, especially if you have never prepared your own tamales. And finally, there's a bit of humor about San Antonio, tamales, and a test we have for politicians. It involves a plate of hot tamales and an orifice of the body. Well, it's not what you're thinking. Each national election cycle, politicians come to the Alamo to give a speech about how much they are in touch with the people and the culture of Texas. And so the test proceeds. We hand them a plate of beautiful hot tamales. A hush falls over the crowd. The successful politician will remove the corn husk wrapper and eat the tamales. The most spectacular failure was by Gerald Ford. He tried to chew through everything, including the corn husk, and to his credit, he got about halfway through. It was all over the press, and some say it even cost him the election. Behold the power of the tamale. Please enjoy making this recipe and enjoy the holiday season with your family.